The settlement of New Haven sat like a fragile jewel on the rust-colored plains of Cathara 7, humanity's latest attempt to scratch out existence on the frontier worlds. 8-year-old Lena Thorn had been warned 1,000 times not to wander beyond the perimeter fence, but the purple flowers that bloomed near the canyon's edge were too beautiful to resist. Her mother would love them for the dinner table. She hummed softly as she collected the delicate blooms, her small fingers careful not to crush the petals. The twin suns hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. That's when she heard it, a sound that froze the blood in her veins, a low gurgling growl that spoke of pain and rage in equal measure. Lena's first instinct was to run. Every colonist child knew the stories of Cathara's apex predator, the Vrathka. The locals called them shadow wolves, creatures that stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder, with obsidian fur that seemed to drink in light itself. Their 6 legs could carry them faster than any human vehicle, and their jaws could crush durasteel. The Galactic Council had classified them as Class A threats, recommending complete avoidance. But curiosity had always been Lena's weakness. She crept toward the sound, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind a cluster of crystalline rocks she found him. The Vrathka lay on its side, its massive chest heaving with labored breaths. Even in distress, the creature was magnificent. Sleek muscles rippled beneath midnight fur, and its 4 luminous eyes blazed with an intelligence that seemed almost sentient. 3 rows of silver markings ran along its spine, glowing faintly with bioluminescence. The creature's head thrashed from side to side, and Lena could see why. Protruding from both nostrils was a massive thorn vine spike, easily as long as her forearm. The native plant was known for its vicious barbs that angled backward, making removal nearly impossible. Blood thick and violet dripped from the wounds. Raven, for that was the name his pack would have called him, fixed all 4 eyes on the tiny human that approached. He had hunted hundreds of creatures in his 12 seasons, had brought down prey twice his size, and had earned his place as pack leader through strength and cunning. Yet here he lay, brought low by a mere plant, and now a juvenile of the strange 2-legged species stood before him. His first instinct was to kill. Even wounded, he could snap this small thing in half with barely an effort. But something stayed his attack. Perhaps it was the way the little creature approached without fear, or perhaps it was the strange softness in her eyes, an expression he had never seen in the face of prey. "Easy," Lena whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "I'm not going to hurt you." She knew the creature couldn't understand her words, but tone was universal. She had learned that much from helping injured animals back on Earth. Slowly, carefully, she extended her hand, letting the massive predator catch her scent. Raven's nostrils flared, a mistake that sent fresh waves of agony through his skull. The tiny human's scent was strange, carrying notes of salt and something sweet, overlaid with the purple flowers clutched in her other hand. There was no scent of fear, and that alone intrigued him. Lena took another step closer. The Vrathka was easily 10 times her size, perhaps more. One swipe of those claws could end her life in an instant. But she had seen the pain in those alien eyes, and she couldn't walk away. "This is going to hurt," she said softly, reaching toward the thorn. "But I promise it'll feel better after." Her small hand grasped the spike. The thorn vine was slick with blood, and up close she could see the dozens of barbs that lined its length. This would have to be done quickly in one smooth motion, or the barbs would tear the creature's flesh even worse. Raven tensed as the human touched the source of his agony. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to fight, to destroy this threat. But something deeper held him still, a wisdom that transcended instinct. This creature was trying to help. Lena took a deep breath, wrapped both hands around the thorn, and pulled with all her strength. The spike came free in a rush of violet blood. The Vrathka's roar split the air, a sound of pain and relief so powerful it echoed off the canyon walls. Lena stumbled backward, landing hard on her rear, the bloody thorn clutched in her shaking hands. For a long moment, neither moved. The predator rose slowly to its 6 feet, its full height towering over the small girl. Blood still dripped from its nostrils, but the terrible pressure was gone, the pain already fading to a dull ache. Lena remained seated, her heart racing, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was. She had helped the creature, yes, but would it understand, or would it simply see her as its next meal? Raven looked down at the tiny human. In his world, debts were sacred. A life saved demanded acknowledgement regardless of the species involved. What this small creature had done, facing her fear to ease his suffering, spoke of a courage his own kind would honor. Slowly, deliberately, the massive predator lowered its head. Its front 4 legs bent, and it brought its muzzle to the ground before the little human, a posture of submission and respect that pack leaders only offered to those they deemed worthy. Lena's eyes widened in disbelief. The creature was bowing to her. With trembling hands, she reached out and gently touched the Vrathika's head. The fur was softer than she expected, like silk despite its deadly appearance. The creature's eyes closed briefly at her touch, a rumbling sound emerging from deep in its chest. Not a growl, but something closer to a purr. After a moment that felt like eternity, Raven rose. He turned and bounded away across the plains, his powerful legs carrying him swiftly toward the distant mountains. But before he disappeared into the shadows, he looked back once, his 4 eyes glowing in the fading light. Lena returned to the settlement just as the perimeter alarms began to sound, her mother's frantic voice calling her name. She would be grounded for weeks, she knew, and her parents would never believe her story about the Shadow Wolf. But 3 days later, when a pack of Vrathika approached the settlement's fence, settlers grabbed their weapons in terror. The creatures had never come this close to human habitation before. Yet instead of attacking, the pack simply sat at the perimeter. Their leader, a massive beast with 3 rows of silver markings depositing the carcasses of several large prey animals before turning and disappearing into the wilderness. It became a pattern. Every few days, fresh meat would appear. The attacks on human livestock ceased entirely. And on quiet nights, settlers would sometimes spot a massive shadow wolf sitting on the ridge overlooking their colony, watching over them like a guardian. Lena never told anyone that she could sometimes see 4 glowing eyes watching her specifically when she played outside, or that she would leave purple flowers by the fence, a small thanks to an unlikely friend. On a frontier world where humanity struggled to survive, one little girl had learned what the Galactic Council had never understood. Kindness transcended species. Courage came in all sizes, and sometimes the most fearsome predators had the most noble hearts. All it had taken was compassion, and the willingness to face fear for the sake of easing another's pain.